This is the Dive Into Discovery podcast, where curiosity meets insight, and every conversation uncovers a new layer of understanding.
All right, listeners, buckle up. Today, we're taking a deep dive into the world of 3D printing.
And you've sent us some really cool sources, too.
I know, right? It's like printing houses and organs.
Right.
Sounds crazy. But, is it all hype?
Well, the potential is huge. I mean, 3D printing is already changing how we make things, even design things.
Okay, so first things first, what is 3D printing exactly?
Think of it like this. Imagine a really, really precise glue gun,
Okay.
And this glue gun builds things layer by layer from a digital model, like a blueprint, except instead of glue, it uses, lots of things, plastics, metals.
Oh, so you're like building a sandcastle level by level.
Yeah, exactly. But with, plastic, metal, even chocolate.
Chocolate, seriously.
Oh, yeah, it's pretty wild. But the point is, you can create these super complex shapes, things you couldn't make any other way.
So how did this all start? Did someone just invent a magic chocolate printing glue gun one day?
Not quite. 3D printing actually started back in the 80s, mostly for making prototypes, testing designs in industries. But now, it's everywhere.
Well, we've all heard about the crazy stuff, like printed houses and organs, right?
Right, but it's not just the future. It's already changing healthcare and aerospace in huge ways.
Give us some examples. I need details.
Okay, so in healthcare, think prosthetics. But not your grandpa's prosthetics. We're talking custom designed, fit to you, even with sensors and stuff.
That's amazing. Like moving from clunky generic stuff to actually personalized high-tech solutions.
Exactly. And then there's bioprinting. Get this. Printing living tissue.
Wait, hold up. So we could print a new heart someday?
Potentially, yeah. It's early days, but we're already using it for skin grafts, implants, even to help tissues regrow.
So 3D printing is already saving lives. But what about aerospace? What's it doing there?
Well, planes need to be strong, right? But light, too. 3D printing lets you make these super complex parts incredibly lightweight but still strong.
You mean they're not just printing model airplanes, they're printing actual parts for real planes?
Oh yeah, companies like GE are already printing fuel nozzles for jet engines. They're lighter, more durable.
That's incredible. So 3D printing's a big deal in these high-tech industries. But, the sources also talk about it changing, like global supply chains and stuff. How so?
Well, right now, most manufacturing is centralized in huge factories, right? They make things and then ship them everywhere.
Yeah, makes sense.
But with 3D printing, you can have smaller production facilities closer to people. They could print exactly what's needed right when it's needed.
So instead of waiting for something to ship from across the world?
You could just walk down the street and have it printed locally.
Wow. Okay, this is all super exciting, but there's got to be some downsides, right? It can't all be good.
You're right. There are challenges. One big one is the environmental impact. 3D printing often uses plastics, and we got to make sure we're sourcing and recycling responsibly.
Right. We don't want to create more problems while we're solving others.
Exactly. And then there's the whole intellectual property thing.
Oh, yeah. Anyone could just copy a design and print it.
It's a bit like the music industry dealing with illegal downloads, but for physical objects.
That's crazy. And what about things like 3D printed guns? I mean, that's got to be an issue, right?
Sure. We're going to need new regulations and legal frameworks as this tech gets more accessible.
It feels like 3D printing is forcing us to confront some really deep questions about ethics, and the future of manufacturing. It's not just a cool gadget, it's changing our whole world.
I completely agree. We're not just printing objects, we're printing a whole new future.
It really feels like we're at the start of something huge,
Yeah.
But aside from all the futuristic stuff, what's 3D printing doing for us right now? In our everyday lives, I mean.
Well, take personalized medicine, for example. We talked about prosthetics, but it's way more than that.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Imagine implants, surgical guides, even the way we deliver drugs, all designed and printed just for you.
Wow. So no more one size fits all. It's totally tailored healthcare.
Right. And like I said, bioprinting is getting incredible. They're printing skin grafts, even using it to help bones regrow. The goal is to be able to print organs someday.
Okay, stop. Seriously. Printing a new heart. That's wild.
It's the future. A future that's getting closer all the time.
But let's back up a bit. You mentioned supply chains earlier. How's 3D printing going to change those exactly?
Well, think about it. Instead of these mega factories making everything, You could have smaller places closer to where people live, and they could print things on demand so you get exactly what you need when you need it.
So instead of waiting for stuff to be shipped from who knows where,
You just pop down the street to your local 3D printing shop.
that's pretty cool. But what about jobs? Won't all those factory workers be out of work if everything's printed locally?
It's a valid point, but whenever there's a big tech shift, new jobs pop up too.
So, like, people will need to design those 3D printed things.
Exactly. We'll need people who can run the machines, fix them, even people to invent new materials for printing.
So it's not like everyone needs to become a 3D printing expert. We'll need to adapt, learn new skills.
Right. And speaking of adapting, what about 3D printing and the environment? You mentioned some positive stuff earlier.
Yeah, that it could be more sustainable, right?
Exactly. Think about waste. Right now, when you manufacture something, you often cut away material, which ends up as scrap.
Makes sense.
But with 3D printing, you only use what you need. So there's much less waste.
It's like instead of chiseling away at a big block of marble to make a statue.
You just build the statue piece by piece, using only the marble you need.
I get it. That's really smart. And less waste also means using less energy overall, right?
Exactly. And remember those lightweight airplane parts. Less weight means less fuel, which means less pollution.
Wow, so even small changes can make a big difference.
Fun.
But aside from using less, can we also use better materials for 3D printing? More sustainable ones, I mean.
Absolutely. Bio-based plastics, recycled materials, even biodegradable stuff. It's like a whole new world of possibilities.
So we could be printing things that can be composted when we're done with them. That's amazing. But let's be real, there've got to be some limits to all of this, right? Like, what can't 3D printing do?
Well, one thing is speed. It's great for prototypes or small batches, but it's not as fast as mass production, at least not yet.
So it's not like we're going to be printing millions of iPhones anytime soon.
Probably not. And the materials are still a limiting factor, too. There's a lot of research happening, but we're not at the point where you can print with just anything.
Right, and what about how strong things are? Are 3D printed things as tough as regular products?
It depends. The material matters, and the printing process and how it's designed. We've made huge strides, but it's not always the same as traditional manufacturing.
So you need to choose the right material and the right process for the job.
Exactly. Which is why research and development are so important. We're still learning so much about what 3D printing can do.
Well, this has been an awesome deep dive into 3D printing. You can do so much already, and who knows what's next, right? Printing rocket parts, revolutionizing healthcare.
The possibilities are really endless, and we're only just getting started.
I can't wait to see what the future holds. Thanks for taking this journey with us, folks.
The pleasure was all mine. Hopefully, our listener is walking away not just with the hype, but with a real sense of the potential and the challenges of this incredible technology.
And hey, this is just the beginning. There's a whole world of info out there if you want to learn more. So keep exploring, keep learning.
And who knows? Maybe you'll be the one printing the future.
It's pretty amazing when you think about it. 3D printing is like making manufacturing accessible to everyone. I mean, before, you needed these huge factories, tons of money.
It was all very exclusive, yeah.
But now, you can get a 3D printer and boom, you're making stuff.
Exactly. We're seeing all these maker spaces popping up, community workshops. People can actually learn how to do this stuff.
So anyone can bring their ideas to life. Print a custom phone case, a prototype.
You could even start a business.
It's like blurring the lines between like being a consumer and a producer.
Definitely. Imagine a world where instead of buying like a mass-produced whatever, you download a design and print it yourself. Customize it however you want.
It'd be like getting a tailored suit, but for like everything.
Exactly. We could see a huge rise in like micro-manufacturing, totally unique products.
But wouldn't that be super inefficient? I mean, would everyone need their own 3D printer at home?
Not necessarily. We could have these like hybrid systems. You design something online, order it, and then it gets printed at a local place.
Oh, so like a microfactory down the street or even at a store.
Exactly. You get the convenience of online shopping, but with local production. Best of both worlds.
Okay, that makes sense. But, you know, we've talked about all this amazing stuff, all this change. We gotta be realistic too. 3D printing is still pretty new. What are the things it can't do yet?
Well, speed is one. For one-offs or small batches, it's great. But for mass production, it's still a way to go.
So no 3D printed cars rolling off the line just yet.
Not quite. And materials are still a limiting factor. The variety is growing, but it's not like you can print with just anything.
Right, that makes sense. And the quality. Are 3D printed things, like as durable as regular stuff?
It really depends. The material you use, the printing process, how it's designed, we've come a long way, but it's not always the same as traditional manufacturing.
So you got to choose the right tool for the job.
Exactly. And that's why research is so important. We're still just scratching the surface of what 3D printing can do.
Well, this has been a wild ride, from printing rocket parts to, like, maybe even revolutionizing healthcare. 3D printing is changing everything.
It really is. And the most exciting part is we're just getting started.
I can't wait to see what the future holds. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of 3D printing.
It's been my pleasure, and hopefully you, our listener, are walking away not just with the hype, but with a real understanding of 3D printing's potential and its challenges.
And hey, this is just the start. There's a ton of info out there if you want to explore more.
So keep learning, keep digging.
And hey, maybe you'll be the one printing the future.
What did you think of this week's episode? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to join us next time as we dive even deeper. And as always, stay curious, because you never know what discoveries are just around the corner.